in light. We know that right where he is, God is, and that God is doing what God always does, which is good, healing and revealing the absolute truth. So thank you, Gabriel. And with that, why don't we get God's party started with a little inspirational video? Yeah, Reverend Scott's working on it now. The miracle of modern technology is about to... We're going to do Elizabeth. Oh, that's right. We're going to do Elizabeth first. Yeah. We switched the script. Okay, my bad. We painted red and moved forward. And so now, let's have a congregational with Elizabeth Hangan. And the congregational is I Trust in God. So please stand and join us for the singing.
We are trusting in God this morning for sure. I surrender, I surrender, I am one in the Spirit all around me. I surrender, I surrender, I trust in God. I am thankful, so grateful, I'm one in the Spirit all around me. I'm thankful, so grateful, I trust in God. I'm thankful, I'm thankful, so grateful, I'm one in the Spirit all around me. I'm thankful, so grateful, I trust in God. I trust in God. I trust in God.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. And so, thank you. You can go ahead and be seated. And, what I'd like us to do is just take a nice breath in and let it out together. Recognizing that as we take that breath in and let it out, we put ourselves into the circulation, the loving way that God moves in and moves out. And as we do that, we have a meditation video that we'll be showing you. And so let's just go within as we watch that video.
Love the music in you, love the song you sing. Let it bring you joy, let it give you wings, let it carry you beyond what you know, beyond old ideas of how your song goes. I love the music in me, I love the song I sing, I let it bring me joy, I let it give me wings, I let it carry me beyond what I know, beyond old ideas of how my song goes. So love the music in you, love the song you sing, let it bring you joy, let it give you wings, let it carry you beyond what you know, beyond old ideas of how your song goes, beyond old ideas of how your song.
I think we were having a little bit of networking problems this morning, but thank you, Gabriel, for the video. And so what I'd like to do next is I'd like to ask Patricia Roach to come on up. She's going to do our invocation and reading.
Good morning, Ahiah. That's better. So, as you heard, our theme for the month is Root and Reboot. And today, our wisdom talk is Internal Song. So I'm taking one reading from Practicing the Presence by Joel Goldsmith, and I'm on page 112. And it says, there is an eternal rhythm in the universe, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. We become one with that eternal purpose and rest in the rhythm of God as we contemplate the eternal flow of God's grace. The rhythm of the universe flows through us. And my second one is a quote by John O'Donoghue, which says, each day is a journey. We come out of the night into the day. All creativity awakens at this primal threshold where light and darkness test and bless each other. You can only discover balance in your life when you learn to trust the flow of this ancient rhythm. So as we turn within, knowing that our eternal song is that rhythm that God is within us, let's take a deep breath in, knowing that with this breath, we breathe in that breath that God is, and it is our rhythm of our life, and begins our eternal song at our very conception. So breathing in, and let's hold it, let it circulate throughout our bodies, and then breathe it out. And one more breath in, breathing in, and just allow your body to relax into this rhythm, this flow, this grace that God is, and breathe out that loving that you are into the world. And in this loving, I recognize God. a God that is present right here and right now. It is that love and that divine that each one of us are. We can feel it. We breathe it. We are it. And in this recognition, I know that as I am one with this power and presence I call God, each one of us here, each one that hears my voice, each person on this planet is one with that presence, that love, that life that God is. I feel the energy of love right here and right now, flowing in through and all around me and everyone that is here, everyone that hears my breath. And this breath of life flows in through and all around everyone and everything on this planet, for all there is God, that spirit, that energy, that love. And as I bless this spirit, speaking my word, knowing that the divine speaks through our ministers, Reverend Scott and Reverend Michael, that same love is present in all of our volunteers, our musicians, our singers, all the volunteers that make this service possible. They share their blessing of love with each one of us, and we in turn share that same blessing that is love, the very presence, the divine that is within each one of us. We are that energy. And I give thanks, knowing that this service is divinely ordered and divinely ordained. And I say thank you, God, for being in our midst, for being within each one of us as that loving energy that you are, that we are right here and right now. And just knowing this is truth, I say thank you, God, and I let it be. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Patricia. And so now let's have Elizabeth come on up. She's going to be singing us a song. And while she's coming on up, what I'd love for you to do is just turn to your neighbors. We don't have to actually physically hug or anything, but you can wave to the people around you, give a nice Ahiah welcome to everyone that is here. And since I think I'm on the screen, I'll go ahead and wave to all the folks that are at home, knowing absolutely that we just love you. Okay. So Elizabeth, what you gonna sing today?
Good morning, everyone. Glad we made it through the rain and through the barriers down on Green Street. Whoever sent the heads up, thank you. The song I'm going to sing today is called "Lord, Prepare Me to Be a Sanctuary." And I want to say good morning to everyone watching online. Emily, if you're watching, good morning. That's my mom. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary for your light, your love, your truth, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. it is you, Lord, who stands beside me and guides me. My faith is my strength, and I thank you for daily blessings, 'cause all things lead back to you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary for your light, your love, your truth. And with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. And it is you, Lord, who stands beside me and guides me. My faith in you is my strength, and I thank you for my daily blessings, 'cause all things lead back to you. Yes.
That was beautiful. And that's such a wonderful reminder. We are the sanctuary. We are our own sanctuary deep inside of us. And so, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, band. So today, we're in January, and our theme for January is Root and Reboot. And so last week we talked about this idea of rebooting from the place of like a computer. We reboot a computer. We start all over again. And we normally do that because there's something not quite right. Right? The computer's glitching, something's not happening, things are slow, we're uncomfortable with what's going on the computer, and so we reboot it. And we can do that with things in our lives also. And so last time I asked you guys, what were some of the things you wanted to reboot in your lives? And so some of the answers I got were things like, I want to reboot my romantic relationships. I want to go out and find a new romantic relationship. Or I want to reboot the way I show up at work. Or I want to get a different job. I want to completely reboot it. Sometimes subtly reboot things. Or, I'm working on my health. I'm not comfortable with how my health is, and so I'm rebooting my health right now. And so we have this option to do all sorts of reboots in our life. And then I said, but then there's the root part. Right? The reboot part is what shows up in our lives, what's visible out there. And what the root is the part that's inside. It's what we create out of. It's this idea that Spirit just says yes to what we are, what we believe, what our intentions are, what our feelings are. Just says yes, and that gets reflected back in our life. And so when we want to reboot something that's out there, what we really need to do is we need to go down inside and look for the root, the thing that we want to change there, maybe a belief that we want to change there. And so, another way of saying that is, what itch am I trying to scratch? Right? When I am looking at this reboot of this thing out there, what is it that I'm trying to do? Why am I trying to do that? So, For instance, one of the answers was a romantic relationship. I want a new romantic relationship. Well, what's the itch we're trying to scratch with that? Well, besides that itch, there's something deep inside us. There's something that we crave, something we want. There's maybe love that we want to express. Maybe there's something about safety or security. Maybe there's something about companionship. Maybe there's something about family. Maybe there's something about me just finding my place in the world and having somebody with me. And so there are lots and lots of things, and what we need to do is we need to get clear on what is that root that we're really trying to, that we're wanting to express in this reboot. And then once we do that, we can understand a little bit more about what are we trying to accomplish? What are we really trying to do? Not just looking at the thing we want, but what is it inside that we want different? So last week I talked about, for me, I was rebooting my concept of family, right? And I mentioned and I talked about how I've done this many times in my life because, there are times when I get in and I start to be uncomfortable with how my family is showing up. And so I want to reboot it. And, I won't repeat that talk, but I talked about how as a child I had to reboot that experience. And so I moved out of the house at 17. And that was my reboot for freedom. Freedom was the root at that time. Now, right now in my life, I'm looking at that family issue again, only because I'm entering a different phase, from an age perspective. And my children, my older boys, or my oldest son just turned 35 yesterday. And my youngest one is 21, and he's almost through college. And so, there's that issue that comes up. And there's all this other stuff for me around family. But what's the root? And for me, the root, I said, was prosperity. Because always for me, this is the way my life works, how my family issue is, not just family as in my husband, my children, but family as in, all the different relationships I have, friends, networking, spiritual community, all of those things are family to me. And my prosperity from the perspective of moving forward with joy, confidence, and ease, that prosperity is always connected, it seems, for me to my family. And so I'm looking at all of that. But instead of just looking at family, I'm going within. And so the question is, what is the root for you? Right? We picked something to reboot, so now what's the root? Anybody want to say anything? Anybody want to shout out any ideas for themselves on their root? Love. Yeah, love. Peace. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had a lot more answers last week, and that's okay, right? I just want you to recognize that. Because, when I asked about rebooting, keep in mind that that's the outward-facing thing. We're kind of comfortable talking about that because it kind of comes in from our head. But the root is the inward-facing thing. It's a little more touchy. It's a little more sensitive. And that's good. That's okay. Because sometimes we need to touch that. Sometimes we need to be aware of it. Sometimes we need to peer inside and see, how is my life? What am I looking for from that place? So, we've got a couple more weeks of Root and Reboot, so I'll leave that for right now, but I'd love to ask Reverend Mike to come on up. He's going to tell us a little bit about rooting and rebooting in his life.
Thank you, Rev.
You're welcome.
God morning again, family. When I think about root and internal song, what comes forward for me is that heart song. You know, what is it that's making my heart sing? And this being Dr. Martin Luther King's day, you know, I think about what a powerful heart song he played for us. You know, truly an example of somebody living their song, living their music, you know. And music is something because it has a certain resonance, a vibration, has the power to transport us back, you know, in time. Like I could think about, you know, a song, you know, the Dells, Oh, What a Night. Now I know I'm old school, but when I hear that song, it immediately transports me back to Chicago, you know, in a day when that song was popular, right? And so these songs, they can transport people into an awareness, into a reality, including our heart song. So Dr. King's song was a song that, you know, the media portrayed as being, you know, all about civil rights. But when you really explore his song, when you really listen to it in its entirety, you see that it was much deeper than that. Because Dr. King sang about poverty being the greatest form of violence, the Poor People's Campaign. He talked about the war machine and how insane it was to wage war against the people, you know, with this machine for the sake of money, of economic gain, you know. And that song is still playing on the radio now, you know, on the airwaves, in the media, you know. I mean, if our legislators can send $30 billion for a war effort and we've got people sleeping on the concrete, something is wrong. Something is wrong. It takes about $35,000 to house somebody. A little bit more if they need mental health services, if they need addiction treatment. But certainly, you know, with $3 billion, you could address 1 million people. You know, for that kind of money. You know, it's like $3.5 billion if you spent $35,000 for, you know, 1 million people, right? And so, you know, that's a song that needs to be played on the radio, on the airwaves, and most importantly, in our hearts. Because we have demonstrated time and time again how when we play a song and we invite people to come sing with us, things happen. A couple of years ago in this very room, we held a town hall on homelessness solutions, right? And when people heard we were playing that song, they came through the whole Pasadena community, and I learned a lot. The video is still on YouTube if you want to go, and I learned a lot, got a lot of ideas, and from that we launched a hygiene kit. Hygienes, and if people donated so we could support Friends Indeed and Union Station services.
Love the music in you, love the song you sing. Let it bring you joy, let it give you wings, let it carry you beyond what you know, beyond old ideas of how you're
Martin Luther King, whose songs moved us to action. So January 31st and April 4th are the observance of the assassinations of these two individuals, and the reminder that their song continues to play. And so the invitation is for us to figure out, what song do we want to play in our community? What do we want to do this year to remind people that peace is possible? these ideas like world peace, if they survey people and they ask them, what's the one thing you would want if you could have anything, right? And 90% of people will say, I would like to have world peace. People want peace. But the truth is that we don't believe it's possible because we're not listening to our inner song, right? We're listening to the song that's being played on the radio, right? Out there in race consciousness. And so this is an invitation for us to listen to our heart song and ask ourselves, what one thing can I do, to make a difference? Right? To make a difference. And what happens is that it causes like a chain reaction. Right? So yesterday, I'm still reeling because yesterday we had a wellness event here, and it was sponsored by the San Gabriel Valley, Pomona Valley Council of Cocaine Anonymous, which one of the founders was here yesterday, talked about. He's got 40 years clean and sober, and he talked about what inspired him to found this organization. And now they were here holding a wellness day, and we had yoga. There was a sound bath. I did a couple of meditation classes. It was just an amazing day where our entire facility was turned into a campus, right, for healing. And I think that was a demonstration to us of the power of the energy that's within these walls that we are supporting, that we are uplifting. We have an opportunity to make a mighty noise. So if you're interested in participating in the Season for Nonviolence, I am working with some of the practitioners to just set up a little ad hoc committee where we're just going to talk about what are some of the things we could do. Typically, we will do Movies for Peace night on the last Friday of the month. We're still doing that after 22 years. And, but some of the things that we've done before that were really like off the chain were like a drum circle. And 1 year out of that drum circle, we ended up doing a peace walk in the community. Some of you may have participated in that. And we joined with 26 other spiritual communities in Pasadena, the mosque. We were with the Pasadena Jewish temple and community. We were with, even the Wiccans joined us. And we had a peace walk, and we raised shoes. We got shoes, 3,000 pairs of shoes between our communities. And, so these are some of the things that we can do together to just make a joyful noise and to allow our heart song for peace, for a world that works with everyone, with no one left out, to be heard. So I am grateful for all of you and looking forward to the best Season for Nonviolence ever. Many blessings, family. Namaste.
Thanks, Rev. So this week the talk title is The Internal Song. Not the eternal song, but the internal song. And so the reason that goes along with this basic idea of every January we talk about the basic ideas of spirit, right? We go back to the basics and we cover things like, what is spirit? How does it create? Who are we? How do we fit into this whole, dynamic of spirit creating in the world? And so last week, the talk title was The Way It Works. And we said that we are what spirit is. We are all that spirit is. And the wonderful thing is that spirit works in, as, and through us. You can imagine, a universe that was just rocks, right? What would a universe look like that was just rocks? If spirit wanted something to happen, and you just have rocks to play with, boy, you don't get much out of that, right? So life is what spirit has in order to experience itself more fully, more completely. And so we are that life. And, the interesting thing is that spirit creates us, and then it gives us the freedom to do as we desire, do as we wish. What are we going to do? And it doesn't edit that. It just says yes to what we decide is our life's path. And so we get all sorts of responses out of that, depending on what we are thinking, what we believe. And so if we don't, the most interesting thing out of that relationship is that if we don't like what's showing up in our lives, well, don't look outside for the solution, look inside. There's that old saying by Ernest Holmes. He says, change your thinking, change your life, right? And so if we don't like our life, change the thinking that created the life. That's a very basic idea. And then we talk about it all throughout the year. We take that idea and we talk about it with relationships and prosperity and work life and health and all these things that we experience in our life. So this week, the idea is really we're talking about what Spirit does. And I want to give you a quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, Spirit can give us only what we can take. Therefore, we must resolve to expand our own receptivity to it. How do we expand our own receptivity? Right? That's really the kicker question, isn't it? We want to. We recognize, once we've learned these basic ideas, we've recognized that Spirit is pouring all of itself into us. And we get to keep what we're willing to receive. So if we want more in our life, if we want more love in our life, then we have to accept more life. If we want more peace, then we have to accept more peace. And, there are some ways of looking inside and making changes. I'm going to talk about two basic ideas around that. One kind of sounds like therapy, right? And maybe it sort of is. Because, when you go to a therapist, he's going to take you back and he's going to say, well, let's go back to the first time you had that feeling. The first time you had, this sensation show up. And what was going on? Really what he's doing is he's poking around to go, what was happening? How did you end up believing the world worked? When you looked at that thing, whatever it was that happened then, you looked at it and you said, well, if the world works this way, then I need to do this in order to keep myself safe, or to be loved, or to have prosperity. And those are the places, those decision points, those choices that we make, those are where beliefs come from. And so if you go in, you can remember that. You can follow the flow back to wherever that was. Maybe you were 6 years old, or maybe you were 20-something, I don't know. But wherever that was, you can follow that flow and you can look at that and you can go, well, I can see how that choice that I made was a perfect choice for a 6-year-old, but I'm not 6 anymore. What choice would I make now? What choice would I make given what I want to experience in my life? And you get to make that choice and change that belief if you want to. Sounds like a lot of work. And to be honest, it can be. That can be a lot of work. So I'm going to give you an opportunity 2 for change. Another way of changing. And that second way is to listen. That second way is to go within and listen. And what are you going to hear? When you go within and listen, you hear that internal song. And it's an eternal song, too. It's an internal, eternal song. It's the song of Spirit that's been whispering to you, singing to you, for all of time immemorial, ever since the very beginning. for you, you have your own specific internal song. And to me, what I believe that song, because when I listen to it, this is what I hear, is I hear beloved. Beloved, be the love that you were sent here to be. Be the joy. Take that freedom and be expansive. And the thing about that song is, as I listen to that song, it just naturally changes what's inside. As I listen to that song, I don't have to go back and remember when I was 6 years old. As I listen to that song and I start to sing the song myself, belt it out to the world if you want. Take that song and bring it up from your heart and out. Now it's that song that is creating in your life. It's that song that is being reflected back to you. It is the love and the peace and the joy and the freedom and the wholeness that Spirit is that's showing up in your life, because that's the song that you are singing. It's become your song. And so, as Reverend Mike mentioned, I was here yesterday for the Wellness Day also. And I want to do a quick shout out. They're not here right now, but I want to do a quick shout out to Dee Dee Kennedy and to Mark Symington, and Hannah is their daughter also. They were all here. In fact, Dee Dee's the one who brought the Wellness Day here to Ahiah. And, you know, it's a nonprofit and it's a wonderful event. And so we gave them a good rental rate for the building, because it's something that serves us as a community. It's something that as Reverend Mike was mentioning, it increases the peace that we feel in this building. And then there are other ways. For instance, my class, Beyond Limits, starts on Tuesday. And so, you know, if you have questions, this is a perfect place to go, because, you know, on Sunday, Reverend Mike and I talk a lot, and you get to say a few things here and there, but in the classes, you get to ask questions. You get responses, and then you get to say a comment about what you think about that, right? And so it becomes a two-way dialogue in the classes, which is a great place to get your questions answered. And this particular class, it's one of the foundational classes. And so, you know, if you haven't taken a class for a while, this is a great class. If you've never taken a class, this is a great class. It doesn't matter where you are. It's a good class to remind yourselves of these basic ideas and to move your life forward. So that's Tuesday, 6:30 to 9 o'clock. I'll talk about it at announcements. Okay. So as we continue looking at this root and reboot, and as I continue to look at it in my life, I talked about, you know, that root is what is inside. And so I've been doing a lot of internal work in this month. And I was on vacation before, and so I had the opportunity to do that internal work because I had time. And internal work does take a little bit of time. And so I had the time to peer inside, and so I've been working on this for a while now. And then I came to Wellness Day yesterday, and, you know, I was doing a bunch because I was here to make sure that they were comfortable and they had what they needed, you know, and the mics worked and the lights were on, and the temperature was right, and all that type of stuff. So I didn't get to go to all of the things. They had wonderful, you know, yoga classes and sound baths and all sorts of stuff. But I did get an opportunity to stumble into our classroom in the afternoon. And I decided, well, everything's been quiet for a while. I'll just sit here. I'll partake of the class. Well, I hadn't looked to see what the class was. I just sat down. And it was on grief. And when she first said that, I was like, oh. And then I caught myself. I looked at that reaction. I went, yeah, Spirit put me here for a reason. And when I know that Spirit has put me somewhere for a reason, I wake up. I look around. I start to listen. I start to see what is the message that I'm supposed to receive right here, right now. And I become fully present. And so there were two ladies at the front. They were beautiful ladies. They were wonderful. They had a great story. And they talked about grief in their life. And as they talked about that, I went, oh, gosh darn it. I do need to pay attention to this. And I started to kind of think about and feel the places where grief has shown up lately. Grief, we often think of grief as in we've lost somebody who's very close to us, and that is one way of feeling grief. But the broader definition of grief is really about loss or regret. My mom, I watched my mom for many years. She passed away when she was 90, almost 91. And I think for her last years, it was, she was grieving a lot based on regret. There was a lot of regret for her. And so, I've been kind of familiar with that, grief from regret. And so I was like, well, let me think about this. And as one of the ladies, talked about, her grief from having had 2 children die on her as in childhood, I went, I see that grief, but that's not really it. It's not the grief of somebody dying. I think it is this regret. And then the one lady, she talked about how grief, what we do is we wear this backpack and something happens, a loss or regret, and if we do not resolve the grief, then what we do is we take that grief and we put it in our backpack. And that grief is a stone. And it might be a tiny little pebble. You put it in the backpack, you hardly even notice it. Or it might be a big, heavy rock. And maybe it's even a boulder, something that could crush you. And so, we need to kind of empty the backpack every once in a while, don't you think? We need to take some of those rocks that we've put in there and take them out. Because even those little rocks, as they accumulate, they feel heavier and heavier and heavier. So one of the things that she did was she talked about how we bypass grief. And that was really interesting because I've seen that at play many ways in myself and in others. And one of the things that she says is, she said we bypass grief by just burying it. Have you ever buried some grief? Yeah, I think that's actually something our culture asks us to do, right? Somebody passes, and, our friends give us a month or 2, and then it's like, it's time to be over that, right? You should be getting on with your life. That's not true, right? We need to grieve until we're done, until we're on the other side of the grieving period. The other thing that we do a lot in our culture is transference. So rather than feel the grief, we transfer it to something else so that we don't have to feel it. We don't have to think about it. We can work. We can, we can turn on our phones and go on our social media and just scroll and scroll and scroll. Anything but feeling that grief. Or addictions are oftentimes born out of grief. We would rather the drug than the feeling. And so I looked at that and I went, well, those are not really mine. And then she got to the last one and she said, oh, anger or annoyance. And I went, that kind of feels right. I think I've had this kind of low-level annoyance that's been going on through my life lately. And I said, oh, well, what's going on with that? And so I was able to leave that and to spend some time. I know I only did the class yesterday, so I haven't fully explored it. But I think there is this thing around COVID that has really kind of brewed up in me around just a low level of annoyance where, I am annoyed by the loss. I'm annoyed by the regret. I'm annoyed by the fact that life isn't how I planned it. I'm annoyed by the fact that people don't gather the way they used to. I'm a very social person. And so when, I don't have that, it's annoying. I'm annoyed a little bit, by the fact that, and this is of nobody's fault here, right? But I'm annoyed by the fact that spiritual community is changing. It just is. And I talk to a lot of ministers. I'm a social guy, so I like to talk to ministers. And, we're all kind of annoyed. And so what do we do with all of that? What do I do with that? Well, the first thing to do is to recognize it. First thing to do is to see that I have this annoyance, and not just to see the annoyance, but to see the root of the annoyance, to see the reason the annoyance is there. Because if I never deal with the grief that has created the annoyance will always be there. And so I have an opportunity to go within. I have an opportunity to, I've told you this before, to get in that elevator and go from my head to my heart and allow those doors to open and see what's down there. See what it is that I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it. And by doing that, I can tell you, my annoyance is not gone yet. I've had less than 24 hours to work on it. But it feels a little lighter, right? It feels a little bit recognized. Sometimes what I find is the things that show up in my life that I don't like. I used to have a mentor who, she was a grand lady, and she would say, take it, invite it in for tea, right? Which just means to allow it to come in instead of pushing it away. Allow it to come in, give it tea, give it some cookies, make it happy, make it heard. Allow it that aspect of you, because it's really you knocking on your own door in a different aspect of yourself. Allow yourself to come in and listen. And by listening, we have the opportunity to know that we've been heard. Know that I'm paying attention. The big I of me is paying attention. So, we want soothing. Well, there's nothing more soothing than that internal song that I talked about, right? So that's another way. You know, that wellness day, those meditations, they had hour-long meditations in there. They had sound bowls or sound baths. They had all sorts of ways to help you go within. I've asked them to come back next year. If they're here, I really hope you go. So, you know, that internal song, it kind of sands off the rough edges. Allows us to hear the song of love, peace, joy, all that Spirit is. And by singing it out loud, maybe not out loud as in out loud, but out loud in my mind, right? I can be singing a song in my head and you know, talking to you at the same time. As I do that, as I sing that internal song of love and peace and joy and wholeness and harmony, all that grief, all that annoyance from the grief, it just dissipates. And so that's what I'm inviting you to do, is to channel Spirit, and by doing that, be genuine to yourself. And so I have an affirmation for you. I'm going to leave you with this today. Our affirmation is showing up on our screen here. Why don't we say it together? It's not showing up on the screen? Oh, it disconnected. All right. Well, I'll say it, and then you guys can say it again. I proudly sing my internal song. Let's say that again. That's by Harris, by the way. So, I proudly sing my internal song. And so as we go through life proudly singing that internal song, I have a few things for you for this coming week. The first thing is to remember root and reboot. And we've talked about what you're going to reboot, but this week what I'd like you to do is think about what's the root of what you're rebooting, okay? And then second of all, look at your life. Feel that backpack. You know, how much grief do you have loaded into your backpack? And if you have some pebbles, I don't know, skipping stones, boulders that you want to get rid of, then, you know, listen for that internal song. Let that love that Spirit is sing through you and sing it out into the world to create more love and peace and joy everywhere. And if you're a little bit mystified, not quite sure what to do, then as I always say, just let Spirit guide you. Thank you, and namaste. And so, now is the time for our conscious contributions. And no, now is not the time for our conscious contributions. Now is the time for prayer. Let's say a prayer to anchor that idea in. I just ask you to come along with me as I drop down inside of myself to that place that hears that internal song, down inside of myself to that place that knows that it knows that it knows that it is the one life, the one power, the one presence that Spirit is. I drop down inside of myself to that place that knows that the heaven and earth around us, it's out there, but it starts in here. And it starts within us as the love, the peace, the joy that God is. And so as that's the truth of Spirit, I know it to be the truth of myself. I know it to be the truth of you. To everybody listening online, I know it to be the truth of the entire world and beyond, that we are that life, that power, that presence. We are all that Spirit is. We are all the love, all the peace, all the joy. And as I know that to be true, I speak my word as the truth of each and every one of us. I know absolutely that this love that God is, it shows up in our life fully and completely, not just as the acceptance that God is, accepting us purely and completely, knowing that we are whole, perfect, and complete in the mind that God is, but we also experience the love in our lives, in the individual relationships that we have, in all the ways that we show up in the world. That love, it encompasses us. It enwraps us, it enshrouds us in this feeling of love and well-being. It creates relationships with other people so that we see that truth reflected back into our life through them. I know absolutely that the wholeness that God is the truth of each and every person here, and out into that land beyond that is online, on live streaming. I know absolutely that that wholeness that God is the truth of each and every one of us. And so if there is anything that needs to be healed, anything that needs to be revealed, the truth and the wholeness and the order that God is the truth of us needs to be revealed in our life, that is true right now because it has always been true. And I know absolutely that this life of peace is the life of us. It is the life of the world. And so we are already on the path that is leading to a peace that is safety for each and every one of us. For knowing that to be true, I just give thanks. And I release this prayer to the law, knowing that it's already fulfilled in the mind that God is. And I say life and God are good and very good. And together we say, and so it is. Amen and amen. And so now is the time for our conscious contributions. And so we have Dorothy and Sandra coming forward. If you're here in the pews, there's an offering envelope in the pews that you can put your conscious contribution into. If you're online, there are 3 ways of seeing that or putting in a contribution yourself. You can go to ahiah.com/donate, or you can text to give. You can text the word give to 616-229-2225, or you can always send a check in to us. And I love those checks and those love notes that come with them. So however that is, let's go ahead and say our benediction, which is not showing up on our screen. So I hope you have it all memorized, but you can say it along with me. This gift I give is God in action. I send it forth with joy, confidence, and ease. I am blessed by the law of giving and receiving as I now share my gift with life. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And so it is. Amen and amen. And so it's been wonderful with that, and I'd like to go ahead and ask Elizabeth, come on up. She's going to give us another song.
Checking my mic. Check 1, 2. Yeah, there we go. So the song I'm going to do is called Up on the Roof, and it's one of those places that you can always go and reboot. When I think of rooting, I always think of little pigs rooting around in the dirt, trying to make their life more comfortable. I love pigs, so that's happiness to me. I want to thank you all for today's words. I mean, it meant a lot to think about. When this old world starts getting me down, and people are just too much for me to face, I climb way up to the top of the stairs, and all my cares just drift
right into space. On the roof, as peaceful as can be. There the world below won't bother me. Let me tell you now, when I come home feeling tired and beat, I go up where the air is fresh and sweet. I get away from the hustling crowd and all that rat race noise down in the street. On the roof, the only place I know where you just have to wish to make it so. Let's go up on the roof. Temptation. At night the stars put on a show for free. And darling, you can share it all with me. I keep on telling you, right smack dab in the middle of town, I found a paradise that's trouble-proof. This old world starts bringing you down, there's room enough up there for two. Up on the roof, up on the roof, up on the roof. There's room for two. Oh, just for me and you. Up on the roof, up on the roof. Oh, up on the roof. Yeah, yeah. Let's go up on the roof. I heard you.
Yeah.
Were y'all singing? Up on the roof.
Oh, it's up on the roof that we want to be, right? And up on the roof listening to Spirit, absolutely. And your voice is perfect for that song. Absolutely. It was beautiful. So normally, actually, we have Lyra here. You guys want to come up and just say hi real fast? We have 7 teens that are off at teen camp this week, along with Miss Lisa and Malachi, and so, but we have Lyra to say hi to.
Good morning. My name is Rachel. I am one of the volunteers with our youth program. Came here today to cover for Miss Lisa, and it ended up just being Lyra and me. So we enjoyed a lovely hour in our beautiful youth room, drawing pictures, reading books, and just hanging out. So, did you want to say hello? You don't have to. Okay, no.
All right, that's all right. We know you're there, and we love you. We love you, Lyra. Thank you for coming. Absolutely. And next week, we'll have Miss Lisa and all of our teens back, and we'll get to hear about the lively time the teens have been having at teen camp this weekend. So just a couple of quick things. Class, I mentioned it in the talk. It starts on Tuesday. It's 6:30 to 9 o'clock. If you want to register, go to ahiah.com/classes. It's got the registration link. It's got the Zoom link to get to the class. So if you don't register, go ahead and be there anyway. Hit the Zoom link and come on in. We'll be waiting for you. And there's also a QR code right there if you want to snap that and go to the website. And then this is Lisa, who's going to tell us a little bit about the workshop that is here next week.
Hey there, Ahiah CSL. My name is Lisa Allman Baldwin, and I want to talk to you about a special workshop that I will be presenting there on Sunday, January 22nd, from 1 to 3 p.m., and it is called It's a New Year, Now What? Now the holidays will soon be over, and turning the page into a new year often seems like a great fresh start with an open road, but no directional signs of how to get to our destination. So this workshop is designed to give you some simple but practical tools for living with passion, authenticity, and purpose all year long. In it, you will learn how to identify what your heart and soul really want to manifest in the new year, transform challenges and setbacks from the past into powerful tools and skills that help support personal and professional growth, and create smart goals that align with your visions, dreams, and desires. So join me in person or online on Sunday, January 22nd from 1 to 3 p.m. for It's a New Year, Now What? I look forward to seeing you there.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing her too. She'll be up here on the screen, and we'll be doing kind of similar to what we do at the annual meeting. We'll be able to talk back and forth to the screen and everything. So it's, and there will be some other people up there, but we'll be in the sanctuary here. If you want to attend, it is a love offering of $20. Love offering just means pay as you can. If you are able to pay $30, you can come to that and also get her book, which is I Cried and People Love Me Anyway. So I really look forward to seeing her. I went to a workshop with her at the Big Sky Retreat this last year, and it was absolutely wonderful. So I'm looking forward to being here next week with her. And then, Rev, you got Metaphysical Bible. You want to say a few words?
Absolutely. Yes.
Coming up a week from Friday, I think.
Yes. Indeed, family. You know, sometimes when you are at a point in life and somebody says something to you, like a grandmother, for example, you might take it literal and then over the years begin to just ponder, like, what did that really mean? Why did they say that over and over and over? So Metaphysical Bible is actually an introduction to understanding the metaphysical meaning of the Bible, what the deeper interpretations are, understanding the allegorical, the historical. Some of it is factual, but most of it is metaphorical. So there's a deeper meaning in the scriptures. And also we'll get a chance to look at some of the history, when these books were written, how they were assembled, and it's a way to make the Bible come alive in your life so that it's not a book of the dead, but it's a book that can help you navigate your life right here and right now. So that's what this class is designed to be. It's 10 weeks. We're going to give you a Bible study toolkit, access to the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and some other tools that will help you to understand the scriptures in a totally new way. Guaranteed.
All right. You know, I used to have a really horrid relationship to the Bible, and by taking metaphysical Bible type classes in ministerial school and in other ways, I love the Bible now. I think it's got a lot of wisdom to it. Book study is here on Tuesdays. You can go to ahiah.com/virtual to access. And then we have practitioners here. I know we have Reverend Mike and myself and Chris. Anybody else in the back today? No? Well, we're all wanting to pray with you if you'd like some prayer after service. We also have Ministry of Prayer online. So if you want to go to ahiah.com/prayers, you can put a prayer in online. Only the ministers and the practitioners ever see that, and we will pray for you on whatever you ask for. And then we also have Dial a Prayer. So let's go ahead and do our benediction. Showing up on the screen. I was able to fix that one. Yes. So we can go ahead and read it together. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in